Welcome everyone to Touring the AFC South. Of course, I'm your host, Mike Patton, and we're going to talk a little Colts or a lot Colts this time around. And we're going to start with the Colts offense. You know, they had the Phillip Rivers, the T.Y. Hiltons there last year. But, of course, I'm not an expert on the Indianapolis Colts, nor do I know everything about them. So I thought it would be right to bring in someone that knows a lot about them, someone that watches them, someone that critiques them, wins, losses, whatever. And of course, I gotta give the rundown. Let me give the rundown since she does a lot of things. Of course, she is the ESPN podcast producer for Around the Rim with LaChina Robinson, which I love that podcast. Listen every week. And she does a show called T Take Two. Now I watched that as well. Now I'm like, okay, they done gave her a platform. Oh boy. And of course, you're writing, appearing on the Undefeated, New York Times, just to name a couple places. And of course, you were recently on MSNBC's the week with Joshua Johnson. That was great, by the way. Today, y'all, we have Mrs. Terrika Foster-Brasby. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me.
Well, usually you're probably talking, the WNBA, which I love your WNBA, the passion you have for it. And I mean, I watch it too. So, hey, I love the game. Wish my Sparks were doing better, but hey, that's another story for another day. I'm glad we got an Olympic break to kind of get ourselves together. That's all I'm going to leave it at that. But what I wanted to bring you on to talk about the Colts, since I know you are a big Colts fan. I still remember in the playoffs watching you watch the Colts through social media. And boy, oh boy, that was a roller coaster ride in itself.
I am ridiculous. I am just ridiculous when it comes to this team and my expectations. And I do my best to try to balance being a fan as well as just, being someone who knows football, likes football, understands the game. But it's hard. It is hard. So I am ridiculous on social media when it comes to it is why if I ever had to be in a position where I had to analyze that any division in the AFC, I would have to take myself out of the South. It's not possible for me to be objective.
I hear you. I understand. Well, we've got to start this Colts offensive segment off with the biggest acquisition you all made this offseason, which is Carson Wentz. Can you describe the feeling you had when it was first announced he was coming to town?
I was mad. Okay? I was mad. I was so ready to go in on everything because I could not believe that the Colts had made this decision. And let me just say this. I never, ever thought that it was simply because, Carson's such a bad guy or, Carson stinks and he had a bad year. Okay. He did. He had a terrible, terrible year. And I recognize that, but I don't doubt for a second that Carson can play. I just was not on board with his antics when it came to competition. And that was a big thing for me. The Indianapolis Colts is a team that had never had to worry about leadership in the locker room from a quarterback position. We've been one of the fortunate teams to have always had someone at that position who we truly can call a leader. Pick a season, pick an era, pick a decade. I mean,
right. I mean, you
can always pick anything. You can go back as far, as I was born in 84. So you can go back as far as 84 if you want. That is the one position where we've never had to worry about leadership. And Carson Wentz is someone who I question as a leader. And knowing how things unfolded in Philadelphia, it made me wonder, is this the right guy to bring that leadership quality and that leadership presence and that thing that galvanizes the troops, for lack for lack of better terms. Can he do that in Indy? Because I don't know if he could do that. Jacoby Brissett was doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Phillip Rivers was doing that. You know, like, and that's a whole different conversation, but he was doing it, you know, because he knew how to do it. You know, so that was my biggest thing is what is he going to bring to this locker room? And can he leave the drama in Philly? And I wasn't so sure.
Gotcha. Now, of course, with him, instead of Phillip Rivers, he who can't throw the deep ball. Do you like the direction?
He who can't.
Offense? What's that?
He who can't stop throwing picks in the fourth quarter.
That too. But you know, I was gonna save him on that one. But anyway, do you like the direction this offense is heading in, kind of so far?
Yeah, I always like the direction. Under Frank Reich, I don't really worry much or question much about, you know, the way that he runs his offense. I've always felt that, and this is fair. It's a fair assessment that, you know, Carson Wentz played his best football under the direction of Frank Reich. And so it's fair to say that he also supposedly had been working with Dodo. So from earlier in the year to work on his football mechanics, work on getting back to throwing the ball better, work on, you know, getting back to the fundamentals. And so because of that, I trust my coaching staff. I trust Chris Ballard. I trust that, you know, they're making the right decisions. And so, yeah, I don't have an issue. You know, I worried about where we were going to go, you know, from a receiving course perspective a little bit. I worried about our O-line before we signed Eric Fisher. But other than that, I don't worry too much about, you know, the direction of this offense. I think we've got one of the best. I think we had one of the most potent offenses in the league last year, and I think we still have the potential to maximize on that.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about Eric Fisher a little bit down the line, but one thing I do want to talk about is the running back position. Now, of course, Jonathan Taylor came out of nowhere to some people. Not for me, but anyway.
Not for me.
What's that?
I said it, not for me.
Got you. But yeah, he came out of nowhere to some people to lead that strong running back room. Are you worried about a sophomore slump for him?
Not at all. Not at all. We Jonathan Taylor, my biggest concern for him is, has he improved with his ability to hold on to the football? He had a little bit more. He was a little bit sloppy at times. He had some turnover issues at times. But for the most part, I don't really see him having a sophomore slump, just because I see the way that this offense is going, that it looks to be a running back by committee sort of situation, which I think actually works, because we've got the potential to have three very strong running backs. And I say potential because Marlon Mack, we don't know what that's going to look like, but we've got the potential to have three very strong running backs there. I'm impressed with what he was able to do last year, Jonathan Taylor. I was impressed with Nyheim Hines. I was impressed with, you know, our run game. And that was the one thing that we desperately needed, is to have a very strong run game. And I think that's one thing that Carson needs too, because when you think about, you know, what made Carson Wentz successful in Philadelphia, he had a run game. He had some guys to throw to. He had a line that was protecting him. I think he gets that still in Indianapolis. And so so I don't worry about a sophomore slump from Jonathan Taylor at all.
Now, you did touch on the guy that I was going to mention, and that would be Marlon Mack. Now, to me, you could have drafted a guy and brought him in and kind of been like a third guy to go along with what you had. So what was your feeling about them bringing him back with the aforementioned Taylor and Nyheim Hines?
I loved what we saw from Mack before he ruptured his Achilles. And I think anybody who knows anything about, you know, athlete injuries knows that an Achilles injury is not one that's easy to recover from. So I think it would be a little foolish of the Colts to just kind of assume that he's going to be back to normal and that, you know, the moment he steps on the field, it's going to be bam, like the Mac was beforehand. I think that would have been a little bit foolish, which is why I think it makes sense to give him the opportunity to get back to that status. And who better to do that than to combine that with Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor is definitely going to start. I mean, he's earned that rightfully. He should be the starter for us. And so I think that, that makes sense. But I also think putting Marlon in the mix, getting him back to where we wanted him to be, I just think it makes so much sense. I think he's had enough time away that, when he comes back, he is going to continue to still be dominant. But and Nyheim Hines is just so quick. The way he finds the holes is very quick. And I think that those things make our running attack balanced. Each one of them brings something completely different, and I think that's what makes it balanced. Mac was more of the ground and pound kind of guy, straight down the gut kind of runner. And I think that just brings a different dynamic to making our team multi-dimensional versus a one-dimensional team. So I think it was smart of them to do that.
Now, for everyone that's listening, yes, Terrika is breaking it down. Terrika is very, very talented, and she knows her football. So don't be surprised by the knowledge that she's spitting. Just want to let everyone know. But anyway, all right. Now, as far as the wide receiver position, now I thought they would add something this offseason, but they just brought back Ty. And do you feel confident with Ty, Pascal, Pittman Jr., and Paris Campbell as the four wide receivers out there? Which I will say, Paris Campbell does get hurt over and over again, but that's just another story for another day. But yeah, are you confident with that?
Well, I was a little shocked, to be honest, that we didn't do more at the wide receiver position. I mean, the Colts are a team that traditionally we have a wide range of wide receivers, and we usually carry at least 6 receivers on the roster, right? So I don't know what to expect from Paris Campbell, just because the guy has been so unfortunate and have had so much bad luck with injuries over the last years that, I would love for him to, come up and be a guy that can, take that wide receiver 2 type of spot. But I also think that Zach Pascal has earned that, because he's kind of unofficially have been that. Realistically, he's been the most consistent anywhere and any time that they've asked him to play a role. He's been able to do that. If they need him to cover, he's been able to cover. If they need him to, run, whatever he's needed to do, if they needed him on special teams, he's been able to do that. So he's been the most consistent. But I think and this is T.Y. Hilton aside, because T.Y. Hilton is going to be T.Y. Hilton. And if you have an opportunity to bring that man back, you do that. That is this guy is 1,000+ receiving yards, almost, with the exception of the year that Andrew Luck was out. And last year, where he set out some games for injury, this is 1,000+ receiving yards yearly. You don't let go of that. So you bring that back. But I'm really impressed with Michael Pittman Jr. I think we really got an opportunity to get a glimpse of what he can do in that AFC wildcard game last year against Buffalo. It was 5 passes for 90 yards. Guy knows how to really rake up some yards after the catch. I think he's a big dude. He knows how to handle the ball. Has a little bit of speed to him, and he's a showman. He makes these, when he gets in the end zone, he entertains you, which is definitely something fun for the fans. But I say all that to say that I think that if you have Hilton, if you have Pascal, if you've got Pittman, at least those 3, and then you get some production out of Campbell, if he stays healthy, you know what I mean? I think we're in a good place. You just got to kind of figure out where you are in the other 2 spots. I mean, there are some other wide receivers on the roster, and then, who knows? People make all types of trades and movements, and acquisitions happen all the time. But I think with those 4, we're fine. We're fine because they have the ability to move the ball if you get them the ball. So again, it all comes back to Carson Wentz. What you gonna do, Wentz? What you gonna do?
Oh boy. Yeah, Carson Wentz. The Eagles are hoping he does great things too, so y'all can give them a 1st-round pick instead of a 2nd. So.
Instead of a 2nd.
So they're definitely hoping so. But definitely want to talk about the offensive line, and you mentioned it earlier with Eric Fisher. Now, Costanzo's retiring. Eric Fisher's coming back, and there's reports that he will be ready when the season starts, or he might not be, just depending upon that Achilles. So what level of concern do you have for that offensive line?
You know what? Call me crazy, but I'm less concerned than I thought that I was going to be. Now, I just mentioned 2 minutes ago that Achilles injuries are not easy to come back from. So, who knows how healthy Eric Fisher is really going to be coming back from that. But the same optimism that I got for Marlon Mack is the same optimism that I have for Eric Fisher. I mean, this dude was probably one of the best, if not the best, left tackle that you've seen. And I think that he's going to be able to bring that kind of mentality and that kind of toughness to our line that we've already had. Now, I have my own issues with Anthony Costanzo, right? I hated that he retired, but at the same time, I also hated all the daggone penalties that I was racking up with him, right? So I am not at all going to miss that. But what I will say is we still have Quentin Nelson. We still have Ryan Kelly. We still have Glowinski. We still have Braden Smith. Like, we still have a solid offensive line. And more importantly, I've got to give credit to Chris Ballard, because seriously, one of the reasons that Andrew Luck retired was because he was physically tired of getting his butt whipped and landing on the ground play after play after play after play, because our offensive line was completely obsolete. And what he's been able to do over the last couple of years is put the right pieces in place to put our line as one of the top offensive lines in the league. And that's something I never thought that I would hear or say. You know what I mean? And so for us to be in this position where you've replaced an Anthony Costanzo with an Eric Fisher, who was a number 1 draft pick, I'm definitely giving some kudos to Chris Ballard here for that.
Gotcha. Okay, and last, of course, but certainly not least, what are your early thoughts on how the season will pan out for the Colts this year?
Oh, this question here. I'm so afraid to put my foot in my mouth, right? Because I look around the AFC South and there has definitely been some changes. I can't overlook Tennessee as much as I often want to. I will always overlook Jacksonville. Always overlook Jacksonville. I don't know what is going on in Houston. And so as much as I don't want to overlook them because anything can happen, I kind of have to. Like, what are y'all doing at quarterback? Who y'all have at receiver? You don't even have J.J. Watt on defense anymore. You know what I mean? It's like it's a completely different team. So I feel that obviously this should be the Colts' division to lose. I felt that the Colts were good enough last year, even with can't throw the ball. Phillip Rivers. I'm like, can't throw the ball. What's his name? But I felt that even last year, we were in a good place. And honestly, our record was really dependent upon a couple of plays going bad. And like the first game and maybe like another game that I think that we probably could have won. I want to say it was the game against Tennessee. Derrick Henry just like pounded it in like in the last like 20 seconds of the game for the touchdown, and we ended up winning. So I think there was like just a couple of missed plays here and there that really made the difference in us being a wild card to being like a 4 seed. And I think that those things are things that we have been able to tighten up. Again, if we can keep T.Y. healthy, if Carson Wentz should be a much better quarterback this year than he was last year, and he's certainly more able to do more for us than, especially if he's able to stay mobile. If he can, keep that mobile thing going, most definitely better for us than Phillip Rivers was. I can see us being, a top 3, top 4 team in the AFC. We should win this division. We should win. I've seen our schedule. We should win like 11, 12 games this year, for real.
Actually, it broke down. It broke down the schedule on one of the episodes. So actually, yeah, I've definitely been over it, and I can agree. It's a very favorable schedule.
It's very favorable. So we just got to take advantage of the opportunities that we have there, because they're there for us this year. We could, if there is a year for us to prove that we've, put our money to good use, for us, again, for me to continue to give Chris Ballard the kudos that I'm giving him for what he's been able to do. If Frank Wright wants to show that, what he did with Carson Wentz isn't a fluke, and Carson Wentz wants to prove, because he has to take this year to prove that he knows what he's doing, and that last year was just an off year, that he's not this forgotten thing, and make me not upset anymore that we didn't take Matthew Stafford over him, then yeah, this is the year. I wanted Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I'll say this about Matthew Stafford. I like watching Matthew Stafford when he's on, but when he's off, he's gonna throw something that's gonna be like, okay, what was that? He's
Okay,
gonna.
but I mean, can you really be not on when you're playing in Detroit? And I'm from Detroit, so I got the right to talk about Detroit. Okay, it ain't much you can do wrong in Detroit.
Gotcha. Well, I want to, that wraps up, I guess, everything with the Colts offense. I want to thank you for coming on. Like a couple weeks ago, I did a show. I scrapped my entire show to give props to all Black women in media, and you were one of the people I actually gave props to. So one of the women, I should say, not people, women. But yeah, definitely wanted to give props to all Black women, and did that on the show. And I just want to thank you for coming on. I mean, this is definitely something that people are not used to hearing from you in terms of on an actual show. But I definitely love to hear you talk about the Colts and just how passionate you are about the Colts. For those that don't know, can you tell them how you became a Colts fan?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny. You can't see it from here, but I've got like my whole little shrine right over there, my whole little Colts shrine going on. But yeah, I became a Colts fan because as I just mentioned, I'm from Detroit, born and raised, and I learned football from my dad, and my dad was a big Johnny Unitas fan. So Johnny Unitas played for the Baltimore Colts at the time, and the year I was born, they moved to Indianapolis. So that's how I became a Colts fan, just kind of following in the footsteps of my dad, learning the game the way he knew the game. I never disliked the Lions. So for anyone listening or watching, I don't hate the Lions. I don't cheer against the Lions unless they're playing the Colts, and then it's a no-brainer. But yeah,
there you go. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you again. Definitely appreciate you spending this time with us. And if you would, tell everyone where they can catch anything you're doing, which you're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on social media at She Knows Sports on Twitter, She Knows Sports _ on Instagram. And also you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Take 2, where I pretty much give myself 2 minutes to elaborate on any random subject. Could be sports, could be politics, could be something completely idiotic, but it's just an outlet for me to just kind of get some things off my chest. And so that's, again, at Take 2 on YouTube. And for sure, please listen to Around the Rim if you are into basketball, women's basketball. And even if you aren't, you never know. You might like women's basketball after you listen to Around the Rim. So that's where I am.
I'll say this. Definitely enjoy the show. You and LaChana are magic on that show.
That's my girl.
She's
in the Olympics. She's at the Olympics right now. So I'm going to be out. We was out her for a couple of weeks, but we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and again, thank you again. It's Terrika Foster-Brasby on the show. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Colts defense with Chris Lewis II. You're listening to and watching Touring the AFC South.